So welcome and good morning. So you're just landing here in butterfly, bringing the soles of your feet together, knees out wide. And then take your left hand to your heart and right hand to your belly. Imagine that your body are the rocks along the bottom of a softly flowing brook. That your back body is heavy, it's rooted to your mat. You're not just one giant rock, but you are a collection of stones, creating the surface or perhaps the foundation of your being. With each exhale, can you let your body sink deeper and deeper, getting heavier and heavier? And just as water flows across rocks and around them, imagine that your breath is the water. As it softly glides over your body. And some of those rocks might feel a little bit jagged today or rough around the edges. We take this lesson from water of smoothing out. And slowly over time, starting to create change. So today we're really going to emulate water and its qualities and even some of the lessons we learn. So before we start to move, just keeping these key ingredients in mind. That water can be both soft and powerful. That water is constantly changing, even if it feels still on the surface. That persistence is elemental to water. That it can carve out change by just simply trying over and over and over again. So as we move through this practice, just allowing your breath perhaps to slowly and gently smooth out any roughness or stickiness that you feel within your body. Gently draw your knees all the way up through center. And then heel toe your feet to the edges of your mat. You can take your arms out to cactus or diamond shape. And gently drop your knees left and right, left and right. The next time that your knees fall all the way over to the right, and just roll yourself onto your hip and find fetal position. So you can just take a moment to pause before we move into a little bit more fluidity and gracefulness in the practice. And maybe consider if one of those lessons of water really lands with you today, and maybe how you can emulate that within your practice. Soft and strong, persistent, or embracing changes and shifts. When you're ready, use your left hand to gently press yourself all the way up, and we'll meet into tabletop. So shoulders tucking over top of your wrists, hips over top of your knees. You're gonna create some Sufi circles with the hips. So it might feel a little bit sticky at first, and that's okay. We'll start with some cat-cows to warm up the spine, and then we're just gonna create a little bit more movement. Right? So as you inhale, start to allow your belly to fill and drop down to the ground, and heart guides forward. As you exhale, press into the earth with your hands and your shins, and then lift through the back of your heart. Inhale breath, let your heart and belly get heavy as they drop towards the earth. And then exhale, curl and round through the spine. Allow your chin to tuck to your chest. Let's take 2 more, just like that. Inhale breath to lower through the front side, and exhale to round through the back side. 1 more round. And then come all the way back through center. You shift your hips over to the right. So just a gentle lean. Right hip starts to lower towards the side of your mat. Okay. Sweep your hips all the way back to your heels. Okay. And then over to the left. So you can just start with these little half circles. If you feel like you need more space, you can always walk your hands a little bit further forward. Okay, just to take some of that pressure off of the wrists. And if this feels good for you, you're welcome to just stay. If you want to add in that full circle, you can play with dropping your hips forward. So you kind of come into a modification of up dog. Your knees are going to stay connected the whole time. And you can just imagine that you're slowly rinsing out some tension that you're holding in all of these corners of your hips. If you're moving with me in full circles, switch directions so you get that balance of just moving the other way. Maybe you can start to find your own fluidity, your rhythm. So take 1 more full circle, and then let's meet into child's pose. So walk your knees wide and sit hips back towards your heels. You can keep your arms extended, or you can always bring a soft bend into your elbows and just cradle your head or your cheek onto your hands. Take a couple of deep breaths and allow yourself to resettle. So finding that quality of water to both be moving, but also to feel still. So your breath is moving, heart is beating beneath the surface, but it's almost like you've invited a pause. Gently, you can start to peel all the way back up to tabletop. Tuck your toes under, and then float your hips all the way up and back. Let's move into downward facing dog. First time you come into down dog, so it might be a little bit sticky. I always advocate for movement. So you can pedal out your feet. Sometimes I add in a little twist, so you can drop one armpit through center. Typically it's the same side as the knee that's being bent. And then eventually find stillness and allow just your breath to flow. Like water rushing over any of those rough edges of self. Soften and bend into your knees, and then walk your hands all the way to the back of your mat to find a forward fold. You can keep that bend into your knees if that feels comfortable for your low back.
Maybe you just play with a little bit of movement, like a sway side to side or forward and back. You'll notice how your muscles respond as you start to shift the weight around. So this is that persistence that doesn't always have to be something big to create change, but just playing with those tiny, tiny shifts and staying within the body. Gently release your hands towards the ground. Take an inhale breath, halfway lift and lengthen, fingertips to your mat or onto your shins. Exhale to fold. Bend into your knees. Inhale breath, sweep your arms all the way up. Take a big full body stretch. And then exhale to land your hands at heart center, Tadasana mountain pose. Inhale breath, sweep and circle your arms up. And then reach for opposite elbows, forearms, hands. Okay, so arms are connected overhead. On your next inhale, lift your forearms up. As you exhale, just pour over to the left. Press your hips out to the right. Hold for one breath and see if you can keep the fluidity of the breath. So keep that fullness. And then as you inhale, you'll come all the way back up through center, grow a little bit taller, and exhale to the other side. Hold for a breath. Use your next inhale, lift all the way up through center. Exhale, release your hands towards your low back and interlace your fingers. Shrug your shoulders onto your back. As you inhale, lift through the sternum, knuckles towards the earth. So you exhale, bend your knees and hinge at your hips to fold. Hands can stay connected to low back or might float off. Let your head hang heavy, gaze back behind you. And gently release your hands to your low back and then all the way towards the ground. Take an inhale to halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Walk your fingertips all the way forward, high plank. Okay, let's ripple through the spine. So take a full breath in to set up. And then as you exhale, lift through your shoulders, mid back, low back, and then press into downward facing dog. You can always shorten the stance if you need. Let's do that 3 more times. Inhale, breath, ripple forward like a wave of your body. Pause, and then exhale, ripple and wave your body back to down dog. Okay. So just about 2 more of those on your own time, and use the whole breath for the movement forward and the whole breath back. All right, the next time that you move forward, lower onto your knees, lower down onto your forearms, right and then left, and then take your hips towards the earth. So you're gonna come into Sphinx pose. If this feels like too much, you can always lower down by taking your fingertips forward. Bend into your right knee, and then reach your right hand back for the top of your foot. So you'll reach to the outer edge. Again, if you're feeling this in low back, just lower down. You can even lay down. As you bend into your right elbow, you'll start to hug your heel in towards your glute and feel a juicy quad stretch. Let's just hold for 2 more breaths. Feeling that strength and lengthening, but also the softness of your breath. Okay. Water flowing through your body. As you exhale, you'll gently release your grip and replace your right forearm to your mat. Find the other side. Left heel pulls in. Left hand connects to your foot or outside edge, top of your foot, whatever's available. And it might be good here, or you can always bend your elbow and hug your heel in. Start to find the rhythm and the stillness. Soften through your shoulders. Let's take 1 more big full breath in. And then when you exhale, gently release all the way down. Okay. Take your chin to your mat, press your hands underneath your shoulders, And then pull all the way back to child's pose. Take a full breath in. And long exhale, breath out. Peel up to downward facing dog. Hips come all the way up to the sky. And as gracefully as you can, tippy-toe your way to the top of your mat. So creating some length for your hamstrings. You can always move your hands with you. Inhale to halfway lift and lengthen. And exhale to fold. Bend into your knees. Inhale, breath, sweep your arms all the way up. And exhale, hands to heart center. Okay. I just changed the top of my mat so that'll make more sense and you'll see why, but don't get confused of where I'm standing on my mat. Okay. So you're at the top of your mat. Take your weight into your right foot and just start to float your left heel up. So you might just play with balance here, or pick your left knee up to hip height, hands either behind your hamstring or on top of your shin. Okay. And then you can play with hugging your left knee in towards your left shoulder. Okay. Lift out of that right hip so there's a strengthening of the standing leg, and then soften your shoulders. One more big breath in. And as you exhale, slower than you'd like, step all the way back into your high lunge. Beautiful. Take a full breath in. Exhale, just sink a little bit deeper. So you're gonna do these tiny little lowers and lifts. So inhale, press into your feet, maybe lift up a couple of centimeters. Exhale, soften into your lunge. Okay, let's do that one more time. Inhale, lift up, and exhale to soften. All right, 5-pointed star. This time, straighten out your front leg as you inhale. Turn open to your left, so you'll face the long edge of your mat. Beautiful. Pick up your heels, turn your heels in. And then as you inhale, cactus your arms wide, pick up the heart. As you exhale, sink your hips down, and then take your hands to interlace over your chest. So you're coming to goddess squat in this variation. Beautiful. So you can check in before we flow through this. You want your knees over your ankles, so mine are a little bit close, so you can always move them out a little bit. Okay. And then once you feel comfortable in your shape, you're just gonna add in some movement. So inhale, breath, open wide, straighten your legs, take your arms to cactus. Exhale, sink your hips down, take your hands over your heart, maybe chin humbles to chest. Inhale, press into the ground, open up. Exhale, hands over your heart, sink your hips down. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, open, and exhale to sink down. Okay. Inhale, breath, open up, and then exhale, just straighten your arms out to the front and back of your mat. Turn and pivot your left toes to the side and right toes to the front. Triangle. Kick your hips back and reach forward. When you can't reach anymore, gently take your right hand down to the inside of your front shin, left hand up to the sky. Okay. Spiral inner thighs towards one another. So it's gonna feel maybe a little bit awkward in the body. You might not notice any change, but it's just an activation of the muscles. If you're unsure of how that feels, imagine you're pulling your heels towards one another and you should feel the backs of your legs really fire up. Okay. Turn and pivot yourself to pyramid. So left hand's going to release down towards the ground. Left toes are going to turn and pivot towards the front of your mat so your heel picks up. Optional, slide your back foot up a little bit if you'd like, okay, so that you can plant the heel down. As you inhale, lengthen through the spine, reach the crown of your head forward. As you exhale, fold. 2 more just like that. So inhale, breath, lengthen out. Exhale to drape and fold. Inhale, breath, peel away from your thigh. And exhale to fold. Okay. Start to bend into your front knee. So that's gonna be your right leg. You can keep your hands just in front of your toes. Pick up your left toes for a minute, L-shaped pose. Now bend really deep into your front knee and step back for a monkey lunge. So you'll step your left toes towards the back of your mat, lower your knee down. Beautiful. Inhale, breath, sweep your arms all the way up. Okay. Release your hands as though they're sliding into the pockets of your pants, and then just shrug your shoulders onto your back.
Okay, so you're not actually sinking forward, it's more of a lift. So keep your left hip right over top of that knee instead of falling to the front. So you can press into your front foot and shift back. And then optional, supporting your low back, just lift your heart. So you're coming into a supported back bend. Okay, this is where the breath might start to shorten and we lose that gracefulness. So see if you can find that balance between the strength to be in the pose, but also the fluidity, natural rhythm. Okay. On your next exhale, you can gently release your hands all the way down towards your mat. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, sit your hips back to half splits. We're gonna do this a couple of times. If this ever feels like too much on your back knee, just grab a pillow and slide it underneath, okay? So inhale, breath, pull forward to monkey lunge. Hands can stay rooted or you're welcome to sweep them up. And then exhale to half splits. Okay. Lifting the arms is gonna be a little bit more about balance. Hands rooted will be a little bit more grounded. So just choose whatever variation really flows with you today. So we work into the hips. This is the center of movement, of our right to feel, but also of creativity. Okay, so you are welcome to add in whatever your body is craving here. Just find your own expression. All right, the next time that you move forward into your lunge, you'll plant your hands, tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Turn and pivot all the way over to the left. So you're coming into a wide-legged fold and then bend into your left knee. So you're gonna bend into that back knee, Skandasana. Right leg will straighten, maybe toes turn up. This is a lot of pressure for your left knee. Plant both feet and keep your hips lifted. Okay, nice. Now if you want to play with a little bit of balance, you can take maybe your left hand to heart center, maybe you take your right. If you happen to just kind of sit back onto your seat, that's okay. You can just come back. And if you really want to play with being present, you can even just play with using one hand to steady yourself and then closing your eyes. And that's really going to call upon your strength, but also to stay soft. Beautiful. All right, let's find the other side. So walk your hands along the edge of your mat, pick up your hips and Skandasana on the other side. So right knee is going to bend, left leg straightens. Find a depth that serves you. And maybe you work into some balance, or you start to challenge yourself by taking out that grounding visual sense and start to really hone in on the other senses. So it's not just our right to feel emotion, but to simply be in our body and feel the world around us. Beautiful. All right, gently take your hands towards your mat. You're going to turn all the way towards the back of your mat and meet into your monkey lunge. Okay? So you should face the back of your mat with your left foot forward, and then right knee will come down. Use your inhale breath to take your arms all the way up. And then exhale, you're coming to your half split. So we're moving, we're kind of mirroring what we just did. Okay, so we're gonna move backwards. Move into your monkey lunge, sending your hips forward, and then back into your splits. You might start to just feel like you are a small boat rocking along the waves of your breath. Maybe even starting to feel the shifts that are happening within your body. All right, this time, when you move towards your monkey lunge, you'll start to float your hands all the way up. So if you feel like you're sinking a lot forward, just press into that front foot. That's gonna activate the inner thigh and hamstring. And take your hands to your low back. Okay, so hands are gonna support you so that low back stays lengthened and the movement actually comes from the chest. Okay, so shrug your shoulders onto your back. Just lift through your sternum. You might even think about pressing your hips forward And instead of going back, think about lifting. So sternum to sky. Okay, checking with your breath. I find mine always starts to get a little bit short or tight here as I've pushed myself a little bit too far. So just ease back until you find your breath. Let's take one more big inhale and exhale together. And then gently you can release your hands down. Tuck your back toes to lift your knee. Find some buoyancy into your back toes. You're lifting into L-shaped pose just for a moment. So this is your transition. Right heel will lift high. And then step about halfway back your mat for pyramid. Okay. Pyramid is really yogi's choice. So some people like the back foot turned out, or some like the toes pointing forward. So you can choose. If the back heel is lifted, that's also okay. As you inhale, lengthen through the spine. As you exhale, fold and drape forward. 2 more rounds of breath and movement, just like that. And start to find your rhythm and your flow. All right, this one's a little bit trickier. Walk your hands to the inside of your front foot. Pick up your back toes, so your right toes are gonna turn to the edge of your mat. You're setting up for a triangle. As you inhale, peel your right hand up to the sky. You may need to take a bit of a bend into that front knee. Try to use your core to lift you. So slowly, slowly, slowly slide your left hand up the length of your left calf or inner thigh. Beautiful. Okay. Use your inhale breath to lift all the way up. And then turn your left toes to the side of your mat and then pick up both heels. Turn your toes out, heels turn in. Let's flush through this again. So cactus your arms, take a big lift of your chest. Exhale, sink your hips down, take your hands over your heart. Inhale, breath, lift up, squeeze your glutes, crack the heart wide open. And then exhale to sink hips down. Okay, one more big breath in. And exhale, breath out. Okay. 5-pointed star, so just inhale, open up. Beautiful. And then take your hands onto your hips for a moment. Turn your toes to the back of your mat. You're gonna meet into a lunge. So start to bend into that front knee. It's gonna be a shorter lunge and that's okay. It's gonna help with the transition. Start to bend into your back knee. Catch your right knee into your chest. So your weight's gonna come into your front foot. Beautiful. And hug your right knee all the way in. Standing so tall, try to stack your shoulders over top of your hips. And then as you exhale, you're gonna step all the way back to that lunge. Okay, so full breath in and exhale, soften. So just like we did at the start, you're gonna move tiny, tiny bit up and down. So just like you're bobbing along tiny, tiny waves. So inhale, lift up as you press into the earth. Exhale, sink your feet towards the ground. 2 more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, sink in. 1 more round. All right, this time straighten out your front leg. Turn open to the side of your mat. Goddess squats. Turn your toes in. Sink your hips down this time and take your hands onto your thighs. So it's gonna change up a little bit this round, but similar structure. Don't worry, we'll move slowly through it. Lean forward, so you're taking your heart out in front of your feet. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, press into your right inner thigh, so make sure you're not pressing into the knee, and dip your right shoulder forward. Inhale, come all the way back through center, and exhale, press into your left inner thigh and dip your left shoulder forward. Inhale through center. You can always straighten the legs if you need. Exhale, sink your hips low, right shoulder towards the ground. Inhale up through center, and then exhale to twist. Okay, so maybe feeling that strength in the legs. Feel the softness in the upper body. So 1 more round to each side. Right shoulder lowers. You come all the way back through center, and then left shoulder. Okay. Inhale up through center. Exhale, sink a little bit deeper. Okay. And then inhale, straighten your legs, reach your arms up. Take a big stretch.
Setting up for triangle, exhale, take your arms out to the sides. Right toes point to the side of your mat, left toes point forward. So you're triangling, that's a word. Maybe it's not. You reach through your left fingertips. So you're taking triangle towards the top of your mat, or the new top of your mat. Left hand will come down, right hand come up. You can just ignore me if I'm not making any sense for you. All right, think about lengthening out through the side body. Soft bend into that front knee so that you're not locking out the joint. Beautiful. And then maybe even pull your heels towards one another to engage those inner thighs. And pyramid pose, gently release your right hand down. You can turn and pivot that back foot, whether it's slightly off to the side or points forward. Optional to play with stepping a little bit further forward to shorten the stance. 3 breaths with movement. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale to fold. Inhale, breath to lengthen. And exhale, fold, let that go. One more time, inhale, breath to lengthen. And exhale to fold. This time, lengthen. Optional. If you need blocks, you're always welcome to grab them, even if that means you have to reset. Okay, so if you have blocks, you're welcome to take your right hand onto a stack of books or a yoga block. You're gonna start to twist. So left hand comes up towards your left hip or reaches all the way up to the sky. Additionally, you can always play with just taking your right hand onto fingertips. Okay. Spiral inner thighs towards one another. So feel your right toes pull towards your left heel and vice versa. Well, if you want to make this a little bit more challenging, walk your right hand about a foot forward and then spring off your back toes for a reverse half moon. Okay, so really feeling the stability in the hips. Okay, beautiful. Gently, you'll release your left hand down and then step your right pinky toe beside your left. So you're crisscrossing your legs. You can bend into your front knee, so that'll be your left leg. You're welcome to just kind of hang out here. You can always walk your fingertips all the way over to the left and kick that right hip out. So left knee is bent, right hip presses out to the side, fingertips maybe over to the left. Relax through the back of your head, neck, and shoulders. Allowing some space for this little break. Gently walk your hands all the way back through center. Okay. And then step your right toes to meet your left. Take an inhale breath to halfway lift and lengthen. And exhale to fold. Press into your hands, step your right toes back, monkey lunge. Lower your right knee down. Okay, inhale breath, reach your fingertips all the way up. And then exhale, take your hands down, half splits. This time we're holding. So you want to think about your back hip over top of your knee. So if your hip is pulled over your heel, you're actually working more into the bent leg than the straight leg. Okay. And then instead of trying to take your nose to your knee, think about lengthening through the spine. So another really great activation is press your left heel to the ground. Feel like you're pulling it towards you. It's not actually going to move because you're pushing it down so much, but you should really feel that elongation through the back of the left hamstring. So notice you don't really have to fold too much here. Always optional as well, take your hands on blocks if you're finding the earth really far for you. If you want to add in a little bit more, you're welcome to start to walk your hands over to the left and turn your pelvis to the left side of your mat. So hips are gonna start to just slightly turn, maybe right hip pulls out more. That's gonna get you into that lateral edge of your left hip, so right along the IT band. All right. Walk your hands all the way back through center, bend into your front knee again. Okay, tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Let's come to Skandasana. Turn and pivot all the way over to the side of your mat and then bend your right knee. Okay, so left leg will straighten,
We're only here for a couple of breaths, so you're welcome to play with balance for a moment or to just take a big stretch through the chest, left fingertips to the sky. And let's move to Skandasana on the other side. So shift all the way through wide-legged fold, bend into your left knee now and right leg will straighten. Settle for just a moment while you maybe catch your breath. Now this is where it's going to change, lizard. So you're gonna take that same movement, go all the way through wide-legged forward fold, but then turn towards where the original front of your mat was. So right foot forward, left foot back. Heel toe your right foot slightly out to the side and lower your left knee down. Okay, so different than monkey lunge, hips aren't square. Your front foot is slightly out and knee is out. Okay. You're welcome to stay here on your hands. Some people like to move down to forearms. As well, if you feel like your right knee is pulling off to the side, you can always roll to the pinky side edge of that foot, just making sure there's no pressure on the knee or ankle. If you want to add in a twist, maybe right hand to your inner thigh. If you want to pick up your back toes, you can always take your right hand to grab a hold of your left foot for a quad opener. Okay, so yogi's choice, whatever you feel called or pulled towards. Knowing you can always change your mind, you do have so much agency within your own body. And then over the next breath or two, you can start to unwind from whatever variation you've chosen and bring both hands to the inside of your front foot. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Turn and pivot all the way to the back and find lizard, now facing the back of your mat. So left foot is forward, right knee is down. And it might take you a while to just kind of ease into this. So it's not one shot to get there, that it's multiple breaths to just explore your body. To maybe even start to create this communication or respect for this incredible vessel that moves you through your life. Maybe even have a conversation where you're simply listening. And gently release from your twist or bind, wherever you've chosen to land. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Turn and pivot all the way towards the original front of your mat. So right foot is forward, left knee comes down. Use your inhale breath, lift up to monkey lunge just for that one breath. And then exhale, take your hands down, half splits. Send your hips back. You can always slide that front heel further forward if you need. Okay. And then instead of looking at depth as getting somewhere, look at it as more of activation. Okay, so front heel roots down, and then it starts to draw back towards you. That squares your hips, and that's that feeling of scissoring the inner thighs towards one another. And then maybe you just draw your collarbones forward, like they're magnetized towards the top of your mat. If you want to move with me, you're welcome to take your hands all the way over to the right, and maybe you start to turn your left hip over to the right. Maybe feeling the difference in sensation. Let's come all the way back through center. Bend into your front leg. Tuck your back toes and step to a fold at the top of your mat. Take an inhale breath to halfway lift and lengthen, and exhale to fold. Okay. Hook your left ankle behind your right. So you're coming into a crooked fold where your pinky toe edges are towards one another. I like to bend into my front knee just to find a little bit more stability. And if you want to join me, walk your hands to the right side of your mat and kick your left hip out. So you're going to get into kind of that lateral line, the left glute and side body. You relax into the back of your head and neck.
And then gently walk your hands all the way back through center. All right, slide your left heel back behind you if you were taking reverse half moon. If you're just coming to the twist, step your left foot back. So either pyramid or your left heel is lifted. Start to add in that twist. So right hand comes up towards your low back or reaches up to the sky. Okay. Either variation, knowing you can always lift the leg later if you'd like, or you can bring it back down. Okay. Draw your right heel towards your left big toes. Reach up through your right fingertips. One more big breath in. And then exhale, release from any twist. If your foot is lifted, step your left toes back. Pyramid, 3 breaths to move through. So inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold belly, then heart, then head. Inhale, breath, lengthen, pull your heart forward. Exhale to fold. One more round. Walk your hands to the inside of your right foot. Turn and pivot your back foot. So left toes point to the long edge of your mat and set up for a triangle. Left hand's going to reach up and then use the rooting down of your feet to slide your right hand up towards your inner calf or even inner thigh. Beautiful. Draw your heels towards one another. And then use your next inhale to rise all the way up. Turn your right toes to the side of your mat and then turn your toes out and heels in. Goddess squat. Sit your hips down and take your hands onto your thighs. We're just gonna flesh this out. 3 rounds of breath to each side. Full breath in. Exhale, dip your left shoulder forward. Look towards the top of your mat. Inhale, breath, lift back up through center. Exhale, dip your right shoulder and look to the back. 2 more to each side. Just start to find your rhythm. Whenever you finish out that last round, you'll just stand tall. Okay, and then you can take your hands onto your hips. Move yourself towards a lunge facing the top of your mat. So just a soft bend into the front knee. It might not be, the deepest lunge you've been in, that's okay. And then find some buoyancy into your back leg. Hug your left knee into your chest. Give yourself a nice big hug. And then exhale, release your left foot down. Okay. Pause for just a moment in Tadasana, so you can roll your shoulders or you can always heel toe your feet out wider. And just close your eyes. And linger on maybe any shifts or changes that have happened since you first landed on your mat today. Any differences in your body or your mindset, energy levels. All right. As you inhale, sweep your arms all the way up. Take a big body stretch. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, plant your hands, step your knees back one at a time. And then scoop your feet over to the right. So you're gonna end up turning towards the edge of your mat. Okay. Sitting kind of like a mermaid with your weight on your left hip. So your right hip is lifted. Deer pose, start to draw your right knee back behind you. Okay. I like deer better than pigeon. If deer doesn't work for you, pigeon or figure 4 or thread the needle are really great options, okay? So use your creativity, just find what your body's craving. With deer pose, I really like it because you can fold straight forward like you would in pigeon, but you're also welcome to fold off to the side. So I just kind of want you to explore for these first few breaths. That might just be walking, maybe lowering and lifting. Really start to feel, what is it to be in your body? Where does your body need that opening? And then once you find it, you can slowly lower yourself into a fold.
If you want extra props, you can always take pillows underneath your back knee, or you can scoop your back knee onto your mat, or take bolsters or pillows under your chest or arms. Wherever you've landed, see if you can just soften into your body. Embrace the persistence, so just maybe holding through some of the discomfort, okay, as long as there's no pain. You might even start to notice on the smallest level the changes that are happening. Right, notice your tongue falling away from the roof of your mouth. Your jaw starting to slacken. Face relaxing. So you start to surrender towards the earth. Take 3 more breaths wherever you are. And slowly start to guide yourself up at the end of that 3rd breath. And this is just a counter pose. So once you come upright, lean into your left hand and left hip. Okay, so you might be left hand, sometimes forearm comes down. Now just take right hand to the base of your skull and open through your side body, or just let that right hand rest wherever's comfortable. If you want extra opening in the right quadricep, squeeze your right glute, so you're slightly pushing that right hip forward. This is just a counter stretch, so maybe a couple more breaths, but notice how the sensation shifts and how quickly we're actually able to move that energy around, that sensation. All right, and then walk along the edge of your body, so along the left all the way to the front. Use your hands to scoop up your back knee, and we'll find the other side. So you're gonna sit over to your right hip, take your top knee, and start to draw it back. Take your time to discover where you wanna land here. So it might just look like shifting forward and then side to side. You might play with lowering in some areas like we did in pyramid, where you'd hinge and lift up. But eventually, over this first minute, you'll start to settle in somewhere. And this is really creating that trust that your body knows what it needs. So you don't have to second guess yourself, just following that inner wisdom. Earlier, I asked you to consider how your body has changed, not necessarily physically, but just the shifts that have happened beneath the surface since you first stepped on your mat today. Maybe even pondering how much has shifted since the first time you ever stepped on your yoga mat. Sometimes when we feel in the thick of things, it feels like things aren't moving in the direction we want. We can't see the changes that have been happening. But when we look back, we see that everything has really changed. So much growth and expansion.
And the last couple of breaths in your deer. You want to play with softening or letting go. Slowly peel away from your fold and lean back to the right. So that could be on a hand or forearm or laying all the way back. You should feel an opening into the front of your left hip and allow that sensation to fade from your right hip. So really balancing out. Gently walk your hands alongside your body. You can scoop up your back leg and then turn yourself so that you're ready to lie down your mat. If you need movement before that, you can always walk your hands back and just gently drop knees side to side. And then whenever you are ready, you're just gonna lower onto your back and take your knees into your chest. You can rock side to side and gently massage out lower back. If you'd like, you can always take your feet down and gently drop your knees side to side. I'm going to leave this last pose up to each of you. So if there's something you are craving, whether that's maybe a happy baby or a plow pose, waterfall, just floating your feet to the sky, or maybe even not a pose at all. It could just be some really gentle movement. So starting to carve that path through your practice to land in Shavasana. And there's no rush to come to Shavasana. You can take as much or little movement. We have a little bit of extra time in Shavasana, and so sometimes I think we rush to get somewhere and then we look at, well, what's next? And so really allowing this transition to be soft and meaningful, perhaps. And once you land in Shavasana, just become aware of your breath again. As this incredible force sweeping across your body, but also gentle, a gentle wave. That each breath that you take has the possibility to completely change your life. That each breath could be a new beginning or a much needed ending. That next breath may hold the compassion that you've been craving or the patience. Maybe that breath just softens you anywhere you're feeling jagged or rough around the edges. You're holding on to animosity or anger, maybe sadness or grief. So allowing yourself to feel, but to not stay sharp to the world. I'm going to close off with an affirmation and then just leave you in silence for a couple of moments.
to rest and just be with yourself. And I'll bring you out when we're ready to close off. So an affirmation to read slowly, but also to feel deeply. I am healing and growing. No matter the season, no matter the weather, I trust that ultimately my lessons and blessings are helping me to become even more of myself. I do not need to rush my growth or healing, and know that just like the sun, moon, flowers, and trees, we all grow and move in our own time. So I slow down, I feel, I breathe, I heal, I grow, I become, all in perfect time. You are so welcome to close your practice in Shavasana. If you'd like to come with me to seated, just wake up your body, most nourishing, kindest way you know how. And eventually that movement will bring you to seated, but without rush. Just like we found in our practice, we're going to close with a different mudra. So hands interlaced to the webbing, and you'll just take hands over heart. So just join in wherever you are, whether that's on your back or in seated. And this is the unbreakable mudra, the unshakable. And so allowing yourself to be like water as you move through your day, that you can only break water when it becomes hard. You can only break water when it chooses to turn itself into ice. And so perhaps we allow ourselves to stay soft, warm, fluid, so that we can gracefully navigate any obstacles or ups and downs that show up along the way. It doesn't always mean it's going to be easy, but there will always be that connection that we can come back to, the movement of your breath, and the trust in this ebb and flow. From the bottom of my heart, so much love and so much gratitude. Namaste.